Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So I was lucky enough this summer to do a bit of traveling, and in today's video I wanted to give you some photography, composition, and technique ideas to try on your next trip or casual weekend outing. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Idea number one is a way to hide the crowds. So it's very difficult if you're trying to photograph a popular location to photograph it without a lot of crowds or people there. Yes, you could wake up early and you can get to the location before sunrise, and it's very likely that there's not going to be a lot of people there. But for those of you that can't wake up early or it's not really possible for you, you just have to find a way to creatively hide the crowds. So what I did, and to give you an example, this is a photo of the BC Parliament building in Victoria, and it was taken around mid-morning. What you don't actually see in this photo, and I'll pop up a behind the scenes photo, is that there was quite a few people around the building, and there was even a family on the other side of the foliage taking a photo of themselves in front of the building. And all I did is I used some of the surrounding elements. In this case, it was a bunch of like planter and flower boxes that they had to kind of hide the crowds. So that's idea number one. Idea number two is to frame within a frame. So I did this quite a bit when I was photographing my trip to Osoyoos. I didn't do this as much on my Victoria trip, but you're basically framing within a frame. And I like doing this when I'm trying to illustrate that I'm traveling from one place to another as essentially context photos in my story. So again, to give you a couple of examples, this is one that I took on my Victoria trip. We were on the ferry going from Vancouver to Vancouver Island. This is another one that I took when we were traveling around Osoyoos by vehicle to a lot of the different wineries in the region. And then this is one that I just took this past Sunday when I was actually going up to Penticton for the day to visit my brother. So that's another idea for you, is to frame within a frame. Idea number three is to use self-reflections to show place. So like I said in the previous idea, when I'm traveling, I like to gather images that aren't just the final view images. I like to have photos that tell more of a story, they add more context to the trip. So on my recent trip to Victoria, one of my favorite ways to creatively document where we were eating was to take self-reflection shots. So what I would do is I would position myself in front of the window, I would try to incorporate the sign into the composition, and I would take a self-reflection shot. So to give you a couple of examples, this is one of my favorite ones that I took. It was our first night in Victoria and we ate in Chinatown at a little restaurant called Little Yunnan. This is another example of, we were in Nanaimo and we were trying to find the best place to eat a Nanaimo bar in Nanaimo. And so we ended up coming across this bakery that sold Nanaimo bars, and so I took a self-reflection shot to kind of creatively document that moment. And then this is another example that I just took again on Sunday when I was visiting my brother in Penticton. We were trying a new brunch place called Terry's Comfort Food with Attitude, and so again I just positioned myself in front of the window. I tried to incorporate the sign of where we were eating into the composition, and I took a self-reflection shot. And so that's idea number three, is to use self-reflection shots to show place. Idea number four is along the same lines of creating reflections, but it's to use your phone to create a reflection. So this was an idea that I picked up from Lisa over at The Wandering Lens a long time ago, and I've used it to create a unique photo of Canada Place in Vancouver. I've used it to photograph different structures here in the Okanagan, and I used it in Victoria to get a nighttime photo of the BC Parliament building all lit up. Now this technique can be really finicky, and this photo that I took in Victoria, it probably took me about half an hour of playing around with my positioning away from the Parliament building as well as my phone screen in order to get a photo that I was happy with. And based off of my experience, I have found that horizontal structures are much easier to work with, as well simple structures, simple lines are again a lot easier to photograph and work with. And this one, it was just really difficult because I was trying to get the top of the building reflected into the phone screen without losing the middle space and all of that pattern. So really, depending on the structure that you were working with, the difficulty of getting that reflection shot will change, but it's a really great technique if you want to get like a unique photo of a place. So that's idea number four, is to use your phone to create a reflection. Idea number 5 is to do a time lapse. Now, this is something that I regret not doing in Victoria. I didn't end up doing any sort of time lapse while I was there because I think a time lapse of like downtown Victoria by the harbor would have been really nice at like golden hour, or like a sunset time lapse of the Ogden Breakwater would have been really pretty. But the problem I have with time lapses is that, one, they take such a long time to do. Like, you are standing still in the same position, sort of same area for like 45 minutes to an hour and a half, and I couldn't really commit that time to do a time lapse in that way. And then second is they do also require a tripod. Now, I don't even think I brought a tripod with me to Victoria because I didn't think I would need it. So it kind of depends on the time lapse that you're creating, but those are my two issues I have with creating time lapses. Now, I have created a video about creating time lapses, so if you haven't seen that yet, I'll leave a link down in the description. But that's idea number 5, is to do a time lapse. Lastly, idea number 6 is creating a stop motion. Now, I've played around with stop motion for a bit, but I've never really played around with it in a travel or outdoor capacity because I typically feel stop motion is done indoors because you don't want the lighting to change in between frames. But I really want to try bringing stop motion outdoors and incorporating it into the activities that I like to do, like hiking and kayaking. But my issue with stop motion is very similar to my issues with time lapses, is that 1, they take such a long time to do, and 2, they also require a tripod. Now, if you don't know what stop motion is or how to create one, I also have a video on my channel about creating stop motions that you can check out. And I've also written an article for Olympus's Learn Center about creating stop motion. So I'll leave both of those linked down in the description if you're curious about stop motion. But that's our last idea today, is to create a stop motion. All right, everyone. So those are 6 photography composition / technique ideas to try on your next trip or casual outing. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then hit that like button and subscribe. Maybe buy me a cup of coffee, and I'll see you in the next video.